Hello and well met. This is Founder Layron with Fantasy Grounds Academy. I am going to build a character using the Fantasy Grounds Unity platform. Wanted to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you that celebrate the Christmas holiday. I have the latest version of Fantasy Grounds Unity. I also have a lot of content loaded. So if I go to my library, go to modules, you'll see I have a bunch of Rob 2E's coding effects and all of the core books and a couple additional books to create some content. Today I'm going to focus on one of the companions or the heroes of the hall. This is Wulfgar the Barbarian. I'm going to build him, and then I'm going to show you how to create him. And then I have some things that are helping me create it a lot faster. So I have two extensions. I have Mad Nomads, automatic links, and then I have, or automatic effects, and then I have Matakire's linking tool that basically pulls in the text from your content. So this assumes that you already have a license, that you have some of the DnD5e content, such as the player's handbook and some of the other things, and then also assumes that you have a license and such. So this is more of an intermediate type of stream or show. So hopefully this will help you. I also did a little research. So I went onto the internet, pulled down some research from Wulfgar's background. This helps give me an idea of what to create him as, and also it mentions his friendships, some of the items that he might have in his inventory, such as his magical hammer, Aegis Fang, and then also some other details like his weight and height and those sort of things. So this is a type of thing that I do for research for when I'm building characters or content. So I'm going to go ahead and close the background lore for right now. I have this kind of open slate. I don't really have any stats that I want to copy from the internet. It's kind of difficult to build these characters because they're really not statted very well, and there's iterations all over the place of what they should have and what they shouldn't. So I'm going to model this particular character after a barbarian, and if you read other sources and other editions, he's probably, 5th level fighter and a 10th level barbarian. I'm just going to create a barbarian aspect, and of course he'll have a totem animal barbarian for the elk. And then I'm going to make him like a Uthgardt barbarian for the race, or a human variant, something like that. So that's the approach I'm going to go with. I'm going to start with the standard array, and the character creation method that I'm using is the older drag and drop. I'm not using the character wizard. So this is the manual way to create content, or in this case PCs, with Fantasy Grounds. So if you are somebody that's new to this, just assume that you are, I've already assuming that you're going to have some of this content already, and that you have already experienced a little bit of Fantasy Grounds. If you're new and you're just a player and you don't have any content, you will have to connect to a host or a GM that has the content that they can share with you. If you are the host or the person who owns the content, you can load up your own session and create your own characters. So I'm going to create all of the different heroes of the hall, but for this particular stream, I'm just going to focus on Wulfgar. So Wulfgar is a barbarian. He's from the north in the Forgotten Realms, near Icewind Dale, from the Reghead Ice Glacier. He's part of the clan of the Elk. He's the son of Barenson or something like that. Let's see. Son of Bjorngar, so that's who he is. I'm going to first build him at 1st level, and then I think I'm going to take and build him for 4th level, and then another level beyond that. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to have different iterations of this particular character. So once you build it up to a certain point, you can make a copy of it and build from the copy instead of altering the original. So you can do that in the library of your character. So if you go to player and you open up the characters panel, this is where you would start a character, or you can use the character wizard. Also, you can just drag another copy of the character and then edit that one and leave the original alone. So I'm going to build a 1st level a 4th level, and then of course I'm going to build the maybe a 10th level or something like that. So that's the approach I'm going to make. So for the time being, I'm going to use the standard array. So it's 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So I'm going to put 15 in strength. I'm going to put 13 in probably in dex. I'm going to put a 14 in con, put a 12 in probably wisdom, or actually charisma, and put an 8 in his intelligence. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So those are the standard array. The next step, if you do this in the manual process, is background. So if you go to the character tab or button on the right-hand side, drop that down, and look for the actual background. So here are a list of backgrounds that can be applied to this particular character. There are lots of different choices here. The closest one I can think of is either he can be an outlander, he could be an urban, or not an urban bounty hunter, but he could be a soldier. There are other options here where you can actually have him be a local hero, a far traveler. Any of those things make sense. You can pick whatever you want, but I think folk hero and far traveler would fit. Maybe even a mercenary veteran, possibly a noble. I think outlander kind of fits him. Yeah, because you grew up in the wilds far from civilization and the comforts of town and technology. You've witnessed the migration of herds larger than forests, survived weather more extreme than any city dweller could comprehend. So this is probably the closest. But there is an Uthgardt Barbarian choice if you have the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, where this one is more about the actual tribe. It's more enmeshed with the actual tribes of Faerun. You get athletics and survival from that, whereas this Outlander one, you get the same thing. So it's almost very similar as far as that goes. But you get the Uthgardt heritage, which you get the hospitality of the North. So I'm going to use the Uthgardt tribe member, because that's basically what's closest to. And it's also themed for the Forgotten Realms. So I'm going to drag and drop that into the background. And as I do so, anything that comes with this particular background is going to automatically populate on my sheet. And the reason for that is normally you'd have to do it manually, but since I have the Rob 2e coding effects and all the other extensions I mentioned earlier, anything that has a code or has a usable function is going to be added to my inventory, provided I have the supporting modules and the extensions loaded. And the reason I did that was to make this a lot quicker, because if not, I'd be dragging all this stuff manually. So that's what's going on with that. So I didn't want you to think, hey, my character sheet don't look like yours. Why is that? Well, I have a lot of extensions and a little bit more advanced stuff in there. So if you've never built a character, don't fret. It just takes a little while to get used to building a custom one. So, all right, so the next step is going to do the race. So we first did the ability scores, doing the background, now the race. So again, I'm in the character area on the right-hand side. I'm going to click the races tab. And then I'm going to come down to here and take a look at what they have for races. You can pick the human variant, which is the closest I think you're going to get for this particular build. There isn't really a barbarian race, but the Uthgardt tribe member is close as far as background goes. But as far as actual creating a character with the 5e rule set, I am going to go with the human variant. So I'm going to drag and drop that onto the race. Once that happens, it's going to point to dialogue here. I can choose 2 abilities from the list below and increase it by 1. So I'm going to do strength as one of them. And then the next one I think is con. So those are my 2 main stats that I'm going to increase. And this is your ability score increase for level 1 for the actual race. If you were a regular human, you'd get +1 all the way down your abilities. But I'm going to keep this themed for this particular build. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. It automatically updates the sheet. And now I get one extra skill that I can add. So if I go to the skills tab on my character sheet, I already have athletics and survival. So maybe nature or animal handling makes sense. I think that makes sense. So if anyone has any idea, maybe nature would be one, because since he's kind of an outdoors kind of living off the land. Or perception is another good one, but we can also pull that in from his class. So I think that maybe insight, intimidation. There we go. Intimidation makes sense, but I think you get that with the barbarian, so I don't want to choose that. Let's go with animal handling. We still know how to ride horses and take care of his any mounts that he might have, and have an understanding of it. Or we can do nature, which kind of makes more sense actually. So nature would be the next potential skill that he would have. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So some classes give you skills, some don't. The ones from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, they usually give you an additional skill that's themed for the actual setting. If you just pick a regular background from one of the other books, you don't normally get a skill like that. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the next thing is on the main tab is the class. So I'm going to open up the class and level window. And I'm going to come over and pick the actual class. So click on classes. And what you'll notice is I have a bunch of different content books to load from. I usually just pick from the player's handbook. It doesn't really matter which one you pick from if it's an official book. However, if it's not, it might pull from a different area that you may not benefit correctly from, depending on who made the content. So I'm going to go with the player's handbook version of it, which is the same as the others, but I want to get it from the official source. So if I'm going to drag and drop that in here, and that's going to add a level to the character, and it's going to also give me a pop-up for different skills. So this is what I was telling you, that I'm going to get intimidation. I already have athletics, and I already have survival. So I think animal handling or perception would be a good one. I think animal handling might be more useful, but actually now perception is definitely something I would use. So he's very aware of his surroundings. So that's a really good find here and good to know. So we'll click that, and that's good right there. So now what we'll do is take a look at his skills. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's got 5 skills. So if you have 4 or more skills at level 1, you're doing good. If you have 3 or 2, you might have doubled up. One of the things about the character wizards is that it helps you prevent you from doubling up on it. If you create a character manually, you have to keep an eye on your skills and make sure you don't double up on them. So that is basically that. For the next level, for 3rd level, it would be 300. According to the player's handbook. Some people don't use experience points, but I'm going to leave that on there. So if someone else plays his character, they know what's going on. If I go to the back of the character sheet on the features, all of those have been added. There's a feat and a skill that's been added as a trait, so I still have to pick a feat because I chose a human variant. I also have armor tool and weapon proficiencies. And then I have a choice of language and another language. So I can basically pick something else. So I'm going to pick Dwarven because I know that, or Dwarvish, because I know that he spoke with Brunar. He's probably learned some. And then the other language, I might make it something more exotic, or I don't know yet. So we'll have to see as he matures, like what exactly he would need. But maybe Goblin or something like that. Either that or something more direct, maybe Undercommon, since he does eventually end up going to the Underdark and such. But I don't think he would learn that from Dritz necessarily. But I'm going to go ahead and put it on there because I don't really have a good answer for that. So he knows a little bit of Undercommon and Dwarvish because he's learned that from his allies and people that he's adventured with. So that's that. Now the next thing is taking a look at this Primal Presence. So this is something that gives you ferocity. It basically, there's things that upset you. Whenever you make a charisma check to interact socially with one or more humanoids raised in civilized cultures, if the number you roll on the d20 is 11 or higher, or if it is a charisma or intimidation check, you add a bonus to your result check to your rage bonus. So that's kind of cool. And then otherwise, you suffer a penalty to the check equal to your rage bonus damage, or rage damage bonus. So it's kind of a trade-off to have that. And then you have the rage from the Barbarian, of course. And then there's the Unarmed Defense. So if you're not wearing armor, you gain this formula. So it's 10 plus your dex plus your con. You can still use a shield if you want to gain the benefit. So if you look at most of his pictures, it doesn't really looks like he's wearing hide or maybe leather at best. So he doesn't really wear armor. So I'm not going to worry about that when I make the character. He might carry some leather with him, but or padded. But I don't think he's really needed to wear it. And if you go to the main tab and you look at the character sheet and open up the little magnifying glass that's next to the shield for armor class, you look on here, you get 10. You get your full dex bonus and con bonus. So if he puts on armor, that little bonus goes away. So right now he's got a 13 armor class, which isn't bad for someone just starting out. I need to pick his feet. So this is something that I want to pick carefully because this can really help him a lot. So if you have like the athlete feat or born on the plains, that might be something. So you're born with nomads, you learn to ride before you can walk. So this gives you like horse handling abilities. You have advantage on all ability checks related to riding a mount. So I don't see him being that way. It's not a, what do you call it? One of the Mongolians or something like that. So there's crossbow expert, there's durable, which might be something. So if you pick that, you gain the following benefits. So you can increase your con score by 1, and then when you roll a hit die to regain hit points, the minimum number of hit points you regain from the roll equals twice your modifier from your con. So that's kind of cool, and so I'll keep that. Let's see. The only other thing, there's a fighting initiate. There's the martial training. You develop a particular fighting style. As a result, you learn one fighting style of your choice from the fighter class. If you already have a style, then you can choose something that must be different. Whenever you reach a level that grants the ability improvement feature, you can replace the feat with another from the fighter class. So maybe that might be a good thing. And then Frightful Presence is something that a draconic gift, so that would make sense. Grappler might be a thing, so that'll allow you to grapple and such. And then there's let's see, what's the next one? Lightly armored, which we're not going to worry about. Like I said, he doesn't need much to do with armor. There's mobile, polearm master, savage attacker. Once per turn, when you roll damage for a melee attack, you can re-roll the weapon's damage and use either total. So that's kind of cool. Let's see, what's this other one? Spellfire wielder. There's tough, which is another one that might be something we want to put on there. And then weapon master is something that you've practiced with a variety of weapons. And he usually uses that hammer, so it kind of doesn't make sense. All right, so those are my choices. So I have durable, I have fighting initiate, I have grappler, and then I have this tough feat, which is kind of like the dwarves get. So it says your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to your level when you gain this feat. Whenever you gain a level thereafter, your hit point maximum increases by an additional 2 hit points. So that might be the thing right there. But the durable is more, it actually increases your score. So I think tough is a cool one. So there's no requirements for it, and I don't really need anything in addition to qualify for it. So when I go to right now I got 14 hit points. My maximum hit die is 12. The reason I have 14 because I have my maximum hit points at level 1 plus a +2 for my con. So I'm going to go to the abilities tab. I'm going to drag and drop the tough feature. And I'm going to take a look at my hit points and see if, yeah, so it automatically changed. So that's baked into the rule set. You don't have to do anything. So when you level up and such, that should automatically take care of it. So it added the extra 2 hit points. So that's kind of cool. So you're going to get 2 extra hit points every level. So that'll help in the long run, I guess. So that's his first level feat. So he's kind of got the tough guy thing going on. He's got the barbarian stuff. He also has the, what else does he have? Let's see. He's got the Uthgardt heritage, which gives him hospitality amongst the tribes, including members of druid circles, nomadic elves, the harpers, and priesthoods devoted to the gods of the first circle. So that's kind of cool. So this feature helps with the you have knowledge of your tribe's territory, also the terrain, natural resources, and the rest of the north. You're familiar enough with the wilderness area that you find twice as much food and water as you normally would if you forage in that area. So that's really cool. That's like a ranger type thing. So that's pretty, I like that. So the feat, I'm going to notate that. So we picked tough, which is going to give him more hit points. So it's very similar to the dwarf. And he was kind of raised by that. So, and then this says you get to gain proficiency or 1 skill of your choice. I think we picked, it was perception. So I'm just notating what I chose for first level because we didn't get an ability score increase at this level. So we already have our languages. You can have light armor, medium armor, or shields if you're a barbarian. You can have 1 type of musical instrument or artisan tools, so I probably will do that. And then weapons, you can have simple or martial. So I got to pick a musical instrument or artisan tool. So I'm probably going to do an artisan tool and then have him, I don't remember if he worked with leather or hide, but I think I want to get him that. And being that I have the Rob 2e coding effects and all the other extensions, it's automatically put the starting equipment for, in most cases, for this type of character. So he has 4 javelins that he can throw, 2 hand axes, and then it looks like, let's see what else. Got his backpack, bedroll, traveler's clothes, hunting trap, hand axes. Okay, so what I'm going to probably end up doing is I'll give him the warhammer and I'll get rid of the javelins. I don't see him doing too many missile attacks, so he's more of a melee kind of up front, so I'll get rid of the javelins. He has a great axe, so probably get rid of that. And I'll leave the 2 hand axes. That kind of makes sense. So if he wants to throw something, he can throw the hand axes. And then as far as his weapon goes, I'm going to give him a battle hammer or warhammer, but it's going to be magic in the future. So I'm just going to give him a regular warhammer right now. So if I go to the campaign and go to items, this will be where I can pull from whatever sources I have. So I'm going to do a search, and I'm just going to do a like War H so I can have the warhammer. So this is the warhammer that's coming from the player's handbook. So here's the warhammer from the player's handbook. Let's drag and drop that onto the actual area. It doesn't really use a shield, so I don't benefit from that. But later on, we're going to make Aegis Fang when he gets more higher level. So when he gets to 4th level, we're going to build that into his inventory so we can replace it. The next thing is we're going to have you can organize your inventory if you want. So right now it says there's a backpack that's empty. I went ahead and got rid of the empty and the parentheses or commas. And then you can just put whatever location where you want to store things. So if I want to put my rations in the backpack, I just start typing backpack with a capital B. And same thing with the rope. It'll probably be attached to the back. It's got a tinder box, so that'll go on the backpack. He's got a token or tattoos as one of his trinkets. That doesn't really weigh anything, but I'll just put 0.01 just so I have something there. Torches will go on the backpack. Water skin, we'll store it in the backpack so it doesn't freeze. It's got a hunting trap, that can go in the backpack. It's got 10 gold to start with, so 10 GP. And let's see, what else do we got? So there's the hand axes, the traveler's clothes. He's probably wearing those. He's got his bedroll, so that'll get bundled up to his backpack. So it's basically counted as that. Let's see, traveler's clothes. Okay, we already got that. Already got that. Okay, yep. So 2 hand axes, a warhammer, and maybe a dagger or something like that. Because I see he's wearing one on his belt. So I'll go ahead and give him a dagger. I don't see the actual hand axes, but I can imagine he could probably carry him on his back. So we're going to give him a dagger. So go to items. And I'm going to search for the dagger. And that's just in case he has to fight up close or he needs to cut something. So let's put the dagger there, and he can throw it too if he wanted to. And the mess kit's going to go in his backpack. This tattoo thing, that's just part of his trinkets. So that's basically all I'm doing to organize that, is just to put that in there. So he doesn't really have any armor, so he's traveling pretty light. He's only carrying 96 pounds out of 240. Now, I know in his stats or in the description, he weighs 350 pounds and he's 7 foot tall. So if I go to his notes, I'm going to put, obviously he's male. I just say he's like in his 20s at this point. So he's 21, we'll say. 7 foot 0 for, these are just role-playing things. And then 350 pounds for his weight. So that's his, kind of his role-playing. As far as alignment goes, I'm going to make him lawful neutral. I don't necessarily think he's good, but I know he's not evil. So lawful neutral. So NEU. And then his god, I believe, is Torm, or I'm trying to remember what he worshipped, one of the war gods, Tempest. So I'll put Tempest there. And then we'll go through his traits and such shortly to give him those. So we'll try to match it as best we can to the books that are available. So that's his some of his things here. If you want to pull up these random, or you can choose, you go to your background, which is in this case Uthgard Barbarian. If you pull up this description, you click on the image, it's going to give you just a kind of example of how they dress. Gives you some ideas of how they are, and talks about the tribes of Faerun. So he's part of the Ragged Glacier in the far north. Some of the tools, he's got to get the Artisan Tool or such. I don't know exactly what to give him for that. So if I go to items, I'm going to look at tools and see, maybe just give him a generic Artisan Tool. So I'm going to type in tool. Take a look. So there's Artisan Tools, which is basically what is a generic way of saying you can craft things. Mason's Tools. It's got Navigator's Tools, Potters, Wood Carver. This is going to give him Artisan Tools. I think that's the best bet. It doesn't play an instrument that I know of, so I'll drag the Artisan Tools to his inventory, and then I'm going to put those in his backpack. So that's just so he has it. And then if he does do something craft-worthy, it'll be up to the GM and the player. But if I'm going to add this skill, just in case he has to make any rolls, so I make him proficient by clicking on the star. And I'm going to put tool, Artisan Tools. And that will cover that, and can base it off of whatever makes sense, but I'll do wisdom. It's kind of a handed down tradition. So he's got his Artisan Tools in case you have to do any rolls, and are already put in his proficiency bonus. So then as far as his personality and his behavior and such, there's a table it's attached to the background. So you can pick these or you can roll. So for personality traits, you can have 1 or 2 of those. So I'll open this up. You can roll the dice and just kind of I once ran 25 miles without stopping to warn my clan of an approaching orc horde. I would do it again if I had to. Yeah, that sounds good. So you can drag and drop the text up there. And then the other one says, I watch over my friends as if they were a litter of new pups, or I have a lesson for every situation. I place no stock in wealthy or well-mannered folk. I'm always picking things up absently. I feel far more comfortable around animals and people, or I was in fact raised by wolves. I think this first one, I'm driven by a wanderlust that led me away from home. It's very true in the beginning of his career, so I will add that to the sheet. I'm just going to drag and drop it. So just drag it from the actual table. It goes right on the sheet. And you just go down this list. So if, the next one is ideal, so you can roll for it if you want, or you can pick it. She says, let's see, this life is like the seasons in constant change, and we must change with it. So I'm good. Greater good is responsibility for the whole tribe. Honor, I dishonor myself. I dishonor my whole clan. I think that makes sense for him. Nature, the world is more important than the construct civilization. Might, the strongest are meant to rule, and glory, I must show glory. So I think I picked the right one out of that. And then some bonds would be my family, clan, or tribe is the most important thing in my life, even when they're far from me. An injury to the unspoiled wilderness is an injury to me. I'll bring terrible wrath down on evildoers who destroyed my homeland. I am the last of my tribe, and it's up to me to ensure their names enter legend. That might be something I'd pick. I suffer awful visions of a coming disaster and will do anything to prevent it, or it is my duty to provide children to sustain my tribe. I think he does actually do that, so I'll put that in his bonds. So he's kind of got the family thing going on. He's too enamored with ale, wine, or drink for his flaws. There's no room for caution in a life lived to the fullest. I remember every insult. I am slow to trust members of other races, tribes, and societies. Violence is my answer to almost everything. Don't expect me to save those who can't save themselves. I think this I'm slow to trust thing makes more sense. So if we wanted to add appearance, we could. I can base that off the research I did. So earlier, before I did the stream, I put a lot of stuff in here. It even has some of his looks, like how he looks. So it says that he was build is pretty big, and I'm just going to take that section of the research and paste it in the appearance part in case someone asks, what does he look like? Then I have something I can just copy and paste it into the chat window. And then for notes, I could take all of this lore if I wanted to and put it in there. I don't know if that's necessary, but I might do some of that later. But that's just a place to put notes for this kind of thing, for his history and that sort of thing. All right, so that's that. So we filled out all of his role-playing stuff, or most of it. Got his inventory dealt with. Let's see. Actions tab is automatically populating based on what I've chose. So all these automatic actions right here were added when I put the character together. The rage action was added automatically. I have some torches and the hunting trap, which is automatically added. The torch does have the coding for the light. So if you're going to use the torch, the effect is already on there. So that's really cool. So when you actually use it and you're on a map, it'll actually automatically pop up. So if you're a character and you're playing, the DM doesn't have to do it for you. You can just click on it. That'll use one of your torches. One thing you can do with these items is you can change how many you have also. So in addition to the description and the actual coding, if you go to the preparation mode, you can change how many of these you have. So I have 10 torches, and they are a one-time use. The hunting trap, I only have one, but you can recover that, so not too worried. The Barbarian Rage is based off of your level and such. So it says there's a rage table that you can look at for how many rages you get for being a barbarian. I don't think he has more than 2 at this point, but it's a bonus action. It lasts for a minute. So that's already coded on here, but if you go to the actual class and you look up how many rages he gets at level 1, you can come down this list and there's a table. And if you come over here and look, it shows you how many you get at first level and so forth. So you get 2 rages, and you get rage and unarmed defense. So that's first level. So I'm going to go ahead and change that on the sheet. So on the actions tab, under at the mode down here in preparation, I'm going to put 2 there, and that will demark how many usages he gets. When he's done using them, when you check them off, so if I switch this over to combat and actions, you can check these off as you use them. So this will demark that you've had usages on it, and it'll disappear off your sheet when you use it until you rest or you replenish. So in this case, this rage can it will come back after you've rested, and I want to make sure I have it set to the correct area, so if it's daily or after a rest. So you get that information from your abilities. So if I go to the rage description, you got advantage on strength checks. When you make a melee attack, you can gain bonus on damage roll. You have resistance to bludgeoning. Okay, once you have raged the number of times shown for your barbarian level in rages, you must finish a long rest. So it's set correctly. It's set to daily. So that's what you want. So that effect, when you actually go to use it, you just check it off. And when you check both of them off, it disappears. But when you do a long rest, if you're on the combat tracker, which you can test it out, you put them on there and use both of them, and it'll disappear. Then you go to menu and you just force a rest on them, and you'll see that it'll come back. So that's some pretty cool stuff. So the Warhammer here has the properties of 1 or 2-handed. I'm going to go with 2-handed. He doesn't really use a shield. And then his hand axes, he has 2. And then the dagger, he has 1. So that's something you have to change manually when you add it to your sheet. So that's that. Let's see what else we got here. So that's the base of this character. So we got all the actions for first level, all the weapons. We don't have Adventure League information, so that's what the log sheet's for. All the notes are in here, at least the base ones. We can add more later. There's the inventory. And ability score and adjustments and notes are back here, along with the feat. And he's done. So this is a first level character. This would be a good starting character. So I'm going to make this character again, but it's going to be a different level. So I'm going to title this Level 1. So basically, this would be a character you can use at a lower tier. So the next character I'm going to build is going to be Level 4. So I'm going to go ahead and take this character and make a copy of it in the actual characters. So here's the character. I'm going to close this one down for now because this is the Level 1. And if you left click and hold and drag, you'll get another copy, exact duplicate. But it will be what you're going to be editing. So I'm going to change the title to Level 4. And then when I do that, I go ahead and pick that's his token or his the artwork for that. So if I want to change this to portrait, the easiest way to do it, instead of clicking through the portrait itself and then going into the bags, it's easier to do it through the assets. But most people will click on the portrait icon, and you just go to the Fantasy Grounds Fantasy or wherever you have it stored, and that will bring that up. So I'm going to go in. I actually have a folder. These are custom, so these don't come with Fantasy Grounds. So I'm using a artwork that comes from somewhere else. So this is going to think for a moment while it goes through all the images, and it's going to allow me to choose one. So I might do that just for this. If I end up releasing this as a module, I'll just use the art that's included in Fantasy Grounds. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and use this Dark Alliance folder, which is where I have the token at. And I'll just drag and drop this over to, or single click, and that'll take that. Then I'll come over here, And I'm just kind of making sure it's associated properly. So there's your 4th level Wulfgar. So we don't have to do a whole lot here. We'll just come on down. And this time I will take an ability score increase instead of a feat, because I already have one. But you could take another one if you want. So all you do to level up in Fantasy Grounds the manual way is you'll click on this magnifying glass, which is your class and level. So right now I'm level 1. So I'm just going to, just one at a time, just drag this little link here, this little dragon head, or it might be a shield or whatever your interface you're using. So I'm just going to drag and drop it. It automatically will level up, and it puts all the stuff in here. So you'll gain different feats, and you're gaining your hit points like we had mentioned. And you also will have your abilities will start adding up. And then anything that has coding, since I have the content loaded, the correct stuff or the additional stuff, any additional actions like Danger Sense and Reckless Attack have already been added. And that's being done through extensions and modules. And I'll mention those at the end of the video in the description of the text for the video if you want to know where those are at. So the extensions are on the Forge, the modules are on the DM's Guild, and they are on sale. I think they're 75% off. And there are other versions, so if you don't want those, you can get your own, or you can make your own stuff too. You don't have to have that. I'm only doing this to make it easier to build a character and a lot quicker. So that is that. So we already done most of the hard work at 1st level. All we're doing now is just stacking up features, getting more hit points, and then the coding is automatically being added. So let's go ahead and level up again. But this will go to level 3, but this is where we're going to pick our archetype. So being that this character is an Uthgardt Barbarian, I'm going to pick the path of the Totem Warrior. You could do the path of Berserker or the Battle Rager. I think path of the Beast is they draw rage from a bestial spark burning in their soul. And I don't think that fits him quite, but it would work. But I'm going to do the Totem. So each totem has an animal associated to it. So the totem spirit can be the eagle or a bear. In this case, we're going to go with he's the part of the elk. So there's bear, eagle, and wolf. So we'll see how that works. And then if you want to go with Storm Herald or Ancestral, could just do Berserker, which is actually a lot more generic, not so crazy. And then there's this path of Totem Warrior expanded. So there's more beasts in this. So you have a Spirit Seeker Totem, excuse me, Eagle, Wolf, Elk, Tiger. So there's the elk. So that's what I'm going to pick is this expanded version. This will have the elk in it. And I don't remember where this comes from, but I think it's one of the Xanathars or Tashas or one of those that expands on it. So I go ahead and pick that one. And I'm going to click OK. And that will pull in any of the coding. So if you see this, now it gives me all these different totems. I'm mostly going to be using the elk, but it adds them all just in case. And then you have your rages can be set to a different level at this point. So if it goes up to 3, that might be something you got to just pick. So I'll go to preparation and I'm going to change that to 3. Because I know that rage goes up in quantity. And then your totems will be elected by what you're going to be doing with your character and such. So all that coding was added on here. I didn't have to do anything. It was automatically added. There are other modules and other people and publishers that are doing similar, where if you have the content in the books and all the right stuff in place, it'll automatically build the sheet for you. So it's pretty nice to have that functionality. Before, everything was manual. You had to code it yourself or you had to drag it over. Now it's just kind of automatic. So here's the Warhammer. Like I said before, we're going to have to come up with a way to give them a magic Warhammer that emulates Aegis Fang. So I'll have to figure out what the stats are on that weapon. I'll look and see if I already have something loaded, because I have Magic of the Realms or something like that that has some content in there. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and ask. This is not a gab session just for me. If you guys want to know anything, or there's anything that's bugging you, or if you want to know what's going on, you can go ahead and ask. I'll check the chat once in a while. But there's all the stuff that's added, and this is for 4th level. So this is a level 4 variation, and then I'll go with a level 10, I think, or maybe level 9, so I can have a higher level version. So I'll have like a low level, mid level, and then like a higher level tier, maybe even an epic level, but I don't know if I want to go that high. So this is basically ready to go. The only thing I need to do is create that item for the Aegis Fang. So let me go into the items and let me see if I have something that's already like it. So I'm going to say Aegis. Yeah, so I don't have anything called Aegis Fang, but I can build a weapon based off of what's already out there. So I'm going to go online and do a little research. While I'm doing that, if you guys have any questions, Aegis Fang probably has some properties that are not standard. So it's a basically it's based off the Dwarven gods. It's pretty good size. It is, let's see, it's a special gift. It's he used this thing against 2 dragons. It gives you a description of what it does. It's made of adamantium and diamond. So I'm going to take the description of this and pull it down so that when I build it, I can include that into the actual content. So that way, if I want to reuse it, it's a little bit more complete, not just a description. So I'm going to go ahead and take the text, and I'm going to put it in a story entry with the character itself. So I think the easiest way actually to do this is just to build the item. So I'm going to take probably a +1 weapon, Warhammer. So I'm sure it has at least a property like that. So here's a Warhammer, here's a +1 Warhammer. So in order to edit this, all I'm going to do is take this Warhammer as +1 and drag it back into this list here. And now I have a copy of it. So I'm going to make a group now, and I'm going to call this, right now it's group 1. So I'm going to call this Weapons of the Companions or whatever. So this is where I put Tom Arail and all the other Icing Death and Twinkle and all this stuff. So I'll say magic weapons of the companions. So this is where I'm going to put all these custom items as I need them. So that is done. And then the copy that I made, I'm going to drag this in. So it says magic weapons of the companions. So I'm going to take this copy and drag and drop it into that group. So magic weapons of the companions. So now there's the Warhammer. I'm going to open this up, unlock it, and going to stretch this out so I can look at this. I call this Aegis Fang. And then comma Warhammer +1, so we know what it is. And then for the description here, it's going to hit enter a couple times. I'm going to paste that data that I got off the website. This is the lore section, so I'm just going to edit this little bit of text here. So this gives you the flavor for the item itself. And then it's going to give me a description of what it looks like and what it was used for and some of its history. And then there's some quotes in here. I'm going to take those out because I'm not using the wiki right now. And then the history is basically part of this lore for this character, which is important if you're going to do a themed type of content. So I'm going to take these and delete the numbers out. They don't need all these extra extra parentheses and that kind of thing. So that's that. Don't need the appendix. Delete that. I'm going to put the link in here. So what I want to do is first put this as a header, and then I'm going to make another header for lore. Whoops, that one down here. So I'm going to put lore up here so that whoever gets this item, they'll have the lore. So Control 2, if you highlight this, will make this a header. So there's a description, there's a lore, here's the history, and now I'm going to put a link of where I got this information. So if I'm online right now, I'm going to copy and paste the link. I'm going to put it in the chat area and hit Control V for paste, and that creates a link. And then I'll just drag and drop it to the actual content here. So I'll just put it right at the top. So if anyone wants to read it online or they want to know where that came from, that's what I'm doing. So just going to drag the link, drop it in here, and that's the actual link for the source information. So if anyone wants to argue about it, they can argue with that. There we go. So there's that. So for right now, it's +1, and it's got this background heritage thing. And that's the Aegis Fang. So when I add that to his inventory, it'll automatically put that information in there. I don't know if he has to be attuned to it or not, so I'm pretty sure he does, but I'll see if there's any stats on it. So Aegis Fang, DnD5e. See if there's any specific artifacts that. So we know it's the Aegis Fang. It's Aegis armor. So we know it's adamantium, so it's going to be light and pretty solid. So Aegis Fang is probably listed in other content. So I want to put stats in here, see if there's any information on it. So Aegis Fang is a dwarven thrower that is uniquely attuned by a non-dwarf. So it does require that. In the books, he returns it at will, and it flies into the hands. It's not just doesn't just materialize. It's made with mithril or one of those heavier, nicer. It's not that heavy. It's very well balanced. So it's versatile and thrown at 30 to 60. Wouldn't be too hard, but it's basically +1 returning Warhammer. If the Warhammer is thrown, it returns to the hand of the character at the beginning of next turn, though this action can be delayed indefinitely by the weapon's owner. I think it used to be like a sledge that he could throw, a big two-handed Warhammer. So it has a throwing property, which is kind of cool. Yep, so it gives him, let's see, giving him 1 strength bonus to damage, but it also is still just a one-handed weapon. You wouldn't be able to throw it. Yeah, pretty sure that the thrown and return properties are part of its enchantment. Yeah, so that it looks like it has a throwing property, and then you can also you can have it. So I don't know who you guys are, but it looks like some spam's going on in here. So whatever. Ignore the spammers. All right, so the next thing is going to go back in and edit the properties. So when you have something like this, you would put, versatile, which it has. It's magic. It's got a +1 on bonus. It weighs 1 pound. It costs between 500 and, I would say, no, it's going to be like 1,500. And it's in the rarity, in parentheses, I'm going to put requires attunement. It has to be attuned to because it's got special properties. So it's a martial weapon. It's a weapon type. So I'm going to look up the properties of another thrown weapon and see what that looks like. So if you're unsure, you can always go to another item and look at the properties. So I'm going to go to all, and I'm going to go to throw. So here's a dwarven thrower, just close. It requires attunement by a dwarf, so that's pretty close. So that is the actual property. So I'm just going to make a copy of the thrower. I'm going to open this up, unlock it, and I will basically give it some of the properties. See, this one's worth a lot more, so definitely going to change the cost. So I'm going to make this like 10 grand or something. Yeah, it's 10,500 gold in value. Still weighs the same. The bonus is +3, so we're going to change that. And then the description will change to 3. Let's see, so this property, I'm going to change that. So Control A, Control Copy. I'm going to delete this one, change that. So that makes more sense. And then I'm going to take this actual information. It does 2d8 damage. So what we want to do, it deals an extra 1d8 of damage. There's a giant 2d8. So this is, we're going to copy that data because we need that information. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the original description. Put that stuff in there. And it's 20-60 range. It does 1d8. And then if the target is a giant, then we can add that to the properties of the weapon. So that's pretty cool. So at that, there's the cost, very rare, instead of, it says requires attunement. So we'll just say that requires attunement. So we'll put that in there. We don't have to put by a dwarf, but that's the note. So I'll just put that in the item notes. But he's not a dwarf, but he was raised by one, so we'll just put that. It's very rare in its value. That's why it's so much money. Very rare. And it's a warhammer for subtype. And it is a weapon. And I changed the notes on it. So this says Control B. Refined warhammer. This says warhammer, so I'll leave that. So that looks pretty good. So it does 2d8 versus a giant. Okay, so we can add another damage type to it. All right, so that is that. The weapon will fly back to your hand. There's the artwork for it, which I'm not going to include, but that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's what we did. We just kind of scarfed together the item. And now that it's created, now I can add it to a sheet. So if I go to the inventory tab and add the item, it should populate his inventory. I'm going to go ahead and remove the regular hammer, because now he has a real magic one. And I don't see the requires attunement. Oh, because it's not identified. So you need to identify it, and then it will say requires attunement. So check that, because he's attuned to it. And then I'm going to go to his sheet here on the Actions tab. So here's Aegis Fang. So one-handed use, there's the two-handed use. So I'm going to change this melee to two-handed, and then this is going to be one-handed. And it says that you can also have damage. We'll say there's 1. You can also have additional damage against giants. So what I'll do is I'll create that on his sheet. That's not too hard to do. So on his sheet, I can either make another weapon entry, or I can make it an effect. So I might do that, is make it an effect. So I'm going to go to add powers and change this to group. So I'm going to call this Aegis Fang and then I'll put magic item or something in there so that it's easy to find out what this is a part of. Okay, so we'll just say Aegis Fang, and then we're going to put in parentheses versus giant. And then the range, we're going to put parentheses, we'll put 2060, just so we have some description there. And then we right click on it, we're going to add an action. It's going to be damage. And we're going to go with adding the damage here. So the bonus is +3. It's bludgeoning, comma, magic, and then 2d4. So that will give him your 2d8. So that's your damage against giants. So instead of rolling damage from the weapon, you can roll it from this effect. Take care of that. So if you go up against giants, you just use this damage instead. There you go. So that's basically what the majority of this build is. It just had to make a custom weapon, and it can be thrown at this point. It returns to you. It does more damage when you use it two-handedly, but have a higher chance of doing at least 6 or 5 points of damage to giants every time you hit. You got your couple hand axes in case you want to throw those, and you have a dagger. So that's cool. So I think that's about all we need right now. I don't see too much else that we need to switch or change. Let me go back to so Primal Knowledge. You got the oh yeah, I forgot about this. The Spirit Walker aspect of the Totem Spirit. So with the elk, while you're raging and you aren't wearing heavy armor, your walking speed increases by 15 feet. The spirit of the elk makes you extraordinarily swift. So I'm going to put this on there. Let me take a look at what's already on this. So I'll drag and drop this into the... No, it's already here. I don't have to worry about it. So this is going to be... I'm going to get rid of these other totems. I don't need them. I don't plan on using them. So these are just added all at once instead of giving you a choice. So he's the elk, so we already have that spirit totem. Yeah, it just has a note here, which is cool. So you get an extra 15 feet movement. So that's cool when you're raging. All right, so that's good. So that would be the mid-level or the medium tier. And then I would go up to like probably 8th level or something, 7th as 8th level. So if you're going to do that, you'd make another copy of that character. So in the characters area for level 4, all we're going to do is just drag this over, and that makes the next entry. And then you just open this up. We're going to change the name. We're going to go with level 8. This 8th level, and get rid of the word copy. And then level them up. So just take this character and level it up to level 8. So it's at level 4 right, or level 3 right now. So I did not level them up all the way yet. So let me delete that. Still got a little bit more to do. So first of all, I need to level them up. So I've got that step. So I'm going to go into this area here where it's just level 3. And I'm just going to drag and drop this thing. Adds hit points. You get ability score increase. And you get more hit points and such. So if I go to the ability area, the ability score increase is noted here. So I'm going to go with strength and probably con again, maybe dex. I'll have to look. So their strength is 1, and then the other is going to be, so I'm just going to manually change it to 17, and then 16 for con is probably, and you know, he's doing pretty good because he already has that. But this is also saving throws, so I'll do that too. So 17, 16 for con. So that's what I did. So I'm going to make sure I notate that on the sheet. You don't have to do this, but it helps your GM. So this is going to be Constitution. So the DM understands what I did. So Constitution. Here we go. So that is basically the way that goes. So that's really not going to change anything on the sheet too much. Now everything's pretty much the same here. I don't have to worry about that. So that's cool. All right, now I'm going to make the copy and bring it up to level 8. So there's your tough, your skills. Yep, looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to level them up again. So I'm going to try that again. So I'm going to make a copy of this level 4 character because it was still at level 3. So now I want to make a copy of it. And then I'm just going to level it up to level 8. So take the copy and title this to 8th level. This time I'm going to level it. So that would be just the same process. Just open up the class and level and drag it a few times. So there's 1 and then 7th or 6th level, 7th level, and 8th level. So anything that needed to be added. So now he's at 97 hit points. Any actions that needed to be added will automatically be added. So he's got all these different aspects here. So I don't need that necessarily, but these are different aspects. I might have to create one for the elk. But you have, yeah, so it's not that hard to level this up. So I might pick one of these. So the aspect, it gives you a magical benefit. So you might gain the might of a bear. The eagle, you might get the eyesight. Wolf, you gain the hunting ability. So you have to pick something that would help you. So maybe you'll get the charging or something, like you can charge into somebody. So that's not bad. So the next step is just to grab the portrait. So like I said, I had a custom one. So I'm going to go with my ones that I created. But I think if I do something else with this, I'm going to have to change it. But here's a Dark Alliance. Oops, wrong one. I got dritzed up here. So Dark Alliance, single click. There we go. So there's the token. So that's your 8th level version. So you can level them up, and then you can have different versions. So now I have the same character, but I have it level 1, level 4, and level 8. So it depends on what tier you want to play and what game you're in. You might even build another one that's 12th level or something like that. But nonetheless, that's basically the build process. I have to look at that aspect thing and maybe give him a charge. Like he can do double damage or something if he charges, like an elk would. So that might be an expanded piece of this description here. So I might edit that and just say ×2 damage when you charge. So that could be something that you can add later. But other than that, it's pretty good. There's not really much else to be done. So that is how you customize enjoying the broadcast with the magic effect. Can it be hidden so that character does not know what the bonus is? Yeah, you can. There's a way to, well, it won't give you the bonus. That's the problem, is you can hide it, but it's difficult to do without an extension, basically. It's either on or off. And when it's off, they won't know anything about it, but they also don't get the bonus. And if you have it identified, then that character will know what's going on with it. So there's really no in between. That's kind of what you're asking. And I don't think Fantasy Grounds could do that unless you have like an extension that would change the way that functions. Because it's basically on or off. That's kind of like in between, like it's on, but they don't know it, that sort of thing. And they'll notice it in the combat tracker usually. There'll be some kind of bonus, and they'll go, hey, how come I'm getting extra +2 or +3? So I don't think that can be done easily without some sort of extension or programming. So it's usually when you have an item like that, it has to be turned on or off. And I don't think you can do half and half. So it's kind of a long shot. But that would be cool if you could do that. Maybe there's an extension out there, but I don't know. That it changes the way Fantasy Grounds works. It might break and that kind of thing. So I don't know. But as for a player character though, until you're attuned to the item, you don't get any of the bonuses. So that's another step, that they have to be attuned to it, which takes an hour. So that prevents you from picking it up right away and just being able to use it like the old days. But you can only have, in this case, if your table, the rules is written, you can only have like 3 or 4 items attuned at a time. You can change that in Fantasy Grounds in the settings, but the character itself, as it stands, he's attuned to the Aegis Fang, and he's able to wield it. And if he's attuned to it, then he's going to know everything about it. So that's the thing. So my answer to you is no. You can't do it unless you've done some kind of intervention or some kind of software. Hidden text or something. Yeah, so when you have the item identified, you don't have any hidden text. But once it's identified, then you get the bonuses and everything else. So the only thing I can think of, the way around that, is if you yourself place some kind of bonus on the player before they roll. And that would be the only, you can just tell the player, just add +3 to your modifier box before they roll. And they will ask you why. You don't have to tell them. So that'd be the only other way to do it, is just say, okay, for damage or for hits, every time you use that weapon, I want you to put 3 in the modifier box. So on the bottom left corner, you can even put a number 3 in your shortcuts and just drag it there whenever you need it. But the player will eventually ask, like, what's going on or something. And at that point, maybe you can reveal to them that it's a magic weapon and it gives you bonuses and stuff. But other than that, there's really no way to hide it. So I don't see any way around it. So anyways, take care, everyone. You have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. Get ready to go have some dinner. And going to call it a stream. I think next time I do one of these, I will definitely build one of the other characters. Probably Caddy or something like that. I've already done Dritz before. I'll have to go back and see where I put it. But he was kind of hard to build because he has a lot of magic items. So I had to have the bracers, the blinding strike, and then I had to do the icing death, and then the other one was kind of like Frostbrand, and so that was kind of a bummer. And then I didn't do all the levels. I made them at like 7th level. So what I'm going to do is probably start him off at 3rd level and then make him a 7th or 8th level, and then have him like 12th level or something like that. So that's what I'll probably do to start off that character, is make him a little bit higher level instead of just 1st level, and then I'll bake all his items for him and such. So once I'm done with all the main characters like Regis and all the Heroes of the Hall, I think I might put this out as a module. I have to think about it, because if I do, I'd have to put it on the DM's Guild. I don't want to deal with all that. So we'll see. But anyway, take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Merry Christmas, and hopefully Happy New Year. Remember, there's a big sale going on for Fantasy Grounds and for some of the content I'm using. It'll be in the link description at the end of the video. Check it out, because it's definitely worth it. I think 75% off for a lot of the stuff that I was using for the coding, and then for a license, if you don't already have one, it's 25% off through Smiteworks, and they have that running till the 5th, and I think the coding effects is to the 1st. So that's what I got. So anyhow, take care, bye.